Welcome to Obsidian for Tabletop RPGs. Let's learn how to use the tool. Alright, g'day guys, and welcome back tonight to another Obsidian video. Tonight we're going to be jumping into a pretty common question that people ask themselves when they first get started with the tool. And that is, how do I get my books into Obsidian? How do I get the content? How do I get all the spells and the monsters, right? And a large chunk of the time they're watching my content and they say, how do I get what you've got? So just to show you what I'm talking about, I've got my mechanics folder here. I'm going to go into my CLI folder. That's going to be a code that you're going to start to see a fair bit about in this video. Jump into bestiary, let's go into beasts and have a look at the skittlings. Alright, we have the skittlings from Where Evil Lies, we have dragons, alright, with book content, with pictures, with stat blocks, with links. Alright, we also have spells. Alright, we have races, we have items, we have everything we need. And the reason why this is useful is because with Obsidian it has automatic linking, right? What that means is with the right plugin, various complements in case anyone's not using it, you can actually have the tool prompt you to create links whenever you're actually talking about something. So let's say an orc turned up. We can actually have a link to the orc automatically generated, and when you do that you get a link to that thing and off you go. Right, but in order to do that you need to have notes for all of those things, and obviously you don't want to type all of those notes out yourself. Now, there's lots of ways to do this. The original method, we copy and paste from PDF files or copy and paste from places like Dungeons & Dragons, D&D Beyond, straight into the tool. Alright, really slow, but it's possible and people do it. Then we've had some videos about the JSON CSV importer plugin using handlebar files to get the content from databases and tables into notes. And that's a very, very fast method of doing it. But the skill required to write a handlebar template is sometimes above and beyond what some people are capable of. Now the new version that I'm using is called the TTRPG CLI process. Alright, the CLI process is, I guess you could say, a very advanced version of the handlebar process, effectively, right? It's taking data, it's got pre-formatted templates and sucking all of the things in and exporting all of the items. Right, all of the notes in a ready-to-use format, but it goes so much further in that it's linking all of those notes together as well. This is obviously a complex beast, all right? And the process that I'm about to jump into now is not for the light-hearted, okay? We are going to be using command line tools because, lo and behold, CLI stands for Command Line Interface, all right? So, TTRPG CLI tool is going to use the command prompt. I'm also going to be running this tutorial through Windows 10, I think I'm on at the moment, maybe 11, I don't know, but Windows, right? If you're using an Apple device, I'm sorry on your own behalf, but outside of that, you know, you're going to have to figure out some of the steps in this process yourself. Some of it will be applicable, but obviously I don't know the ins and outs of how to use those other operating systems. Alright, with that said, let's jump in and let's have a look. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need to do is actually head on over to obsidianttrpgtutorials.com and come over here and type in CLI. And that will bring up this CLI page, and from here you can see two different sort of options. There's an option to go for D&D 5th edition, and there's an option to go for Pathfinder 2nd edition. It's worth noting that at the time of recording this video, Pathfinder 2nd edition is not quite as polished as it could be. Okay, 5th edition is the one that's got the most love so far, so you know it works really well. For Pathfinder 2nd edition, you probably need to supplement that experience with some of the other community support content, which you can find under here. There's also links to support, alright, so I'll call out that we have our Discord channel where the community hangs. Inside of there we have a CLI discussion channel where you can go and you can request help, and there's people who are there to support you. Alright, but tonight we're going to jump into the CLI 5e, and what we're going to do is we're going to focus tonight on how to download the system reference document for D&D 5th edition. Alright, so we have a process here. There's a documented process on how to do this step by step. I highly recommend you go through and read this first. Alright, This is also a fairly lengthy process. So what I've also done is I've created a bit of a checkbox that you can go through and actually mark these things off as you go. Alright, so anyway, let's jump in and let's see if we can figure this out. Okay, starting at the top, and obviously reading the process from top to bottom, the first step is to download the TTRPG CLI. Alright, this is the actual tool that we're going to use. There's a link here. We're going to click that and open that up. That's going to take us to the TTRPG CLI, which is obviously a GitHub site, which means you can come in and actually have a look at what's going on here. I can see that there's been a release 2 days ago, alright, which is fantastic because I don't actually have this, which is a good example for you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to download this. Now I'm going to download the version for the operating system that I am using. Alright, so if we come to releases and we have a look at the latest release, alright, we can see latest release. Come down to the bit that says assets, we can see a list of all the things that have actually been released. Now, there's a lot of confusing stuff in here, but the thing you've got to take away is these are OS files. So there's the files for the Linux users, the Apple OS X users, I'm not sure what runner is, and then there's a Windows version as well there. So we're going to be downloading the Windows version. So I'm going to grab this bit here, click download, and that's going to download over here. Once that's finished, I'm going to extract that. So I'm going to click. Now you can see that it's actually been flagged as a virus or malware. It's open source, so you can have a look at it. I have faith that there's no viruses in this, so I'm going to click download anyway. I recommend you do your own due diligence and make your own decision. But once that is there, we get the zip file, and I'm going to basically come in here and I've got a couple of folders and files. Now we're going to just put this one to the side. I'm going to bring open another window. And I'm going to come to the C drive. Now I recommend the C drive as a place to put this. By the time you start working with network drives, and oh my god, avoid the use of anything that's live synced to like Google Drive or OneDrive particularly, but for me C drive just works. It's clean, it's clear, it's easy. Then I make a folder called CLI. Inside of that I've made 2 folders, one called 5e tools and one called pf2e tools. These are the 2 websites we're going to be using. We'll go into 5e tools, and you can see here that we've got a bin, a license, and we've got the readme file. So if we open up this file here, you'll see that this replicates here. Alright, so create your CLI folder, create a subfolder for 5e, you can call it whatever you want, copy these and drag these over. I'm just going to drag these 2 that have been updated, just in case they have changed. And then I'm going to go into bin, and I'm going to bin, and I'm going to drag this over, and I'm going to replace the one that I have as well. Because there's a new version, I want to use the new version. While I'm here, I'm actually going to come over to the pf2e tools version as well, and I'm just going to drag this into my pf2e2 version as well, just because I will be using this at a later time. Alright, so that's the process for both how to install the CLI tool as well as how to update it. So hopefully that will be useful for you. But now we have these folders here. Alright, so let's head on back over to the website and see if we can continue. We're going to click this box to say that we've done it. We've created a folder for the CLI. We've extracted the CLI tool to the folder. Alright, and as you can see, I've followed these instructions here. We now get to one that says install Git. Now Git is a command line interface designed to manage GitHub, I guess you could say, or GitHub repos. So go ahead and click download and click install. Alright, so we'll download that. We're going to get the 64-bit because I am using a 64-bit computer. Chances are you are as well, there's not that many 32-bits left around. That's going to do the install. And then once that's done, we're going to basically run that. Here it comes. And we're just going to install it. So I'm just going to go next. I don't need to read anything. Next, 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 install. As you can see, I did not pay attention to any of the settings. I just need to install the version and make that work. So I'm probably actually uninstalling and reinstalling because I already had it, but you know, the important thing to take away here is that you need Git installed. You can control GitHub repos without Git. It just means you can do it with the command line interface tools, which is really, really useful. And the process requires it. Alright, that is now done. Alright, we're not going to view the release notes, we're just going to click finish. Alright, we'll close that. We can come back to here, scroll up the top and say we've downloaded Git and we have installed Git. Okay, so now we get to the point where we need to download content. Alright, so we're going to come down here, so download the content you intend to use. Now, we're going to be focusing on the 5e SRD file tonight, which is a nice easy one for us to play with. So, what we're actually going to do is we're going to use Git to create a repo on your computer. Now what that means is it's going to create a clone of a repo, which is a GitHub location. It's a website that contains the D&D 5th edition SRD, and we're going to be utilizing that in order to create the content. It's kind of the source data that we're going to be using, so we need to have a copy. Now there's a couple of options for doing this, and I just want to call this out because I've had a few people get this wrong at this point. Some people have gone to the website that I recommend and they've downloaded the content manually and manually extracted the content to the folder. And I just want to call out the fact that this does work. All right, you can make that work. But in my experience, it changes the install directory, which means when you get to the end of the process, you need to change the actual URL paths in the command that you're using. This will all make sense later, so don't get too freaked out if you don't understand me now. But I recommend you use the repo method, all right, which is what we're going to follow now. All right, so first thing we're actually going to do is we're going to come over here to our folder setup again. And actually I want the other one, this one here. So we're in 5e tools. All right, we've got a bin folder. Now yours isn't going to look like this, okay? This one here is the folder we're actually trying to get now. But I've got this, this, and this, and this will not actually, you know what? Everything except for that will be missing from yours. You will just have a TTRPG-convert.exe. For the sake of this video, I'm going to delete my DM folder. This is the actual output that we're looking to create. But I'll quickly delete that just to reduce a little bit of confusion. But I'm not going to uninstall some of the stuff that I've already done because it takes literally like an hour to do this next step. So anyway, we want to create this folder here. Alright, but we're in the bin folder. And if we come in here, it says open the folder you made above and navigate to the bin folder, which is what we just did. Click in the address bar and type CMD. Alright, and then we're going to copy this and we're going to copy this into the tool. So what we do is we come back here, we come to our bin folder, we click in the address bar and type CMD and press enter. This opens the command line. Don't freak out, it's not that scary. Alright, now it's very important that you do this from that bin folder. Okay, if you're not in that bin folder, this process will not work. But because we came here and we copied this, you can click this button here to do that. Alright, then we came back over here to the bin folder with the command line. Alright, we're in the bin folder and you can see that by the address bar here. We now need to paste that line of code that we just copied. You can do that in command by right clicking. Alright, so right click and then press enter. Now, I'm not going to go through this process on this video, alright, because you will see that this will trigger off a bit of a process. It takes a while, probably like an hour at least, but it's basically going to copy a website onto your computer is what it is doing, and then it's setting that up as a GitHub repo, which means it can basically be maintained. So, git space clone space address bar. Alright, this is the address you need to put into there. Go ahead and press enter. I don't need to do this, right? Because I've already done it. What I will do is I'm going to do a git pull. No. Oh, sorry. I need to go into here to do a git pull. Okay, 1 minute deep. And the reason why I'm doing is I'm just getting an update, but this will give you an idea just to see, you know, the sort of thing you expect to see. All right, you can see it's actually checking the website now. It's finding out if there's any changes between my files and the files that are actually hosted on the GitHub repo, and it's downloading those updates into my folder. Now, hopefully this shouldn't take too long because I update this fairly regularly, but I like to do this every time before I actually run the process, just to make sure that I'm getting the latest. But of course, this isn't what you need to do. You won't have this. You are literally just coming back to the bin folder, typing in CMD, opening this and pasting that and pressing enter. Alright, following the prompts, it should go ahead and it will create you a folder inside of your bin folder that will match the same name as this. Now, this is the important bit that I mentioned before. So some people have downloaded this manually from the site and they paste this in, and from my experience what they seem to have is a different name where it says -master after it. Alright, so just be careful of that. If you've got the -master, it probably means you downloaded it manually and you haven't followed the instructions, and that's probably why you're getting error messages when you get to the end of this process. Alright, but once it's done that, it downloads a copy of this site into this folder. Alright, and it will have an entire copy in there. I'm almost there, I'm at 71%. Alright, and that's pretty much what you need. You don't need the homebrew folder for now. We're going to go ahead and utilize that at a later time. You also don't need the TTRPG convert CLI main folder, so we'll go ahead and we'll do that in a separate video just to keep the confusion out. You also do not need that, and you also do not need that. So this folder will be enough for you to proceed through the rest of this video. Alright, let's just check back in. How are we doing? Just resolving some issues, conflicts, updating some files. It's nearly there. Nearly. Alright, we're going to go back to this website now though. So we'll pretend that this is downloaded, and we're now up to the exciting bit to run the CLI. Alright, if we come down here, we follow this instructions, we get to run the CLI. Alright, so open the folder you made above and navigate to the bin folder. Alright, so the same folder we've been in. Go into the address, type CMD just like we've done before, and press enter. This opens the command prompt, and from here, type this code here. So we're going to copy this. Alright, let's go back. The process is now finished, and you can see this because it's back to the address where we've actually started this. Alright, now I'm going to shut that one down and we're going to start this again just like the process said. We're in the bin folder. Alright, we're going to type in the address, type CMD for command, press enter, and this opens. We've copied a command, alright, which is from here. We've copied that, and we're going to paste that in here, and we're going to press enter. But first, let's just understand what this is doing. We have this section here, TTRPG-convert.exe. What that's doing is it's saying, run this file. And if we have a look in this folder, alright, in the bin folder, we can see that this file exists and exactly the same name there as the one we have there. We've got a -- index. This means that actually it's saying, can you please create an index file for what we're about to do? Alright, it's an output thing. It's a trigger. The -o is saying output the results of this process into a folder called DM. Alright, so you can actually change this. Just for an example, I'm going to call it SRD. Why not? And the last bit is where we're getting the data. Now this is where everybody goes wrong. Alright, the people who have downloaded this and not followed the process correctly, this is where they go wrong. This must match this and this. Alright, so in this case here, this. So 5e tools -mirror -1, 5e tools -mirror -1.github.github.io.io. Right, it's matching it exactly. If I go into this folder, you will find there is a /data folder. Alright, that's what it's doing, is it's matching that exactly. Now if we press go on this, press enter, and watch the process commence. Alright, it's reading the data, it's finished reading the data, and now it's going to create notes based on the SRD. It's writing the files, boom, it's now done. Look how many notes that just created. All right, we've got 319 spell files, 585 items, 323 monsters. Like that there is enough for a new Dungeon Master to start playing Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. All right, that is a fantastic and quick way to get your notes. All right, so let's jump over to our website. Let's go and update the process that we were doing before. So we've run the CLI. Now we copy the content into Vault. All right, so come in here. You see it's created the SRD folder based on the fact that I actually told it to create it as the SRD folder. Inside here, I can see a compendium. I can see the rules folder. I've got the index files. The index files are actually really quite handy because they give you a list of everything that's been included, including all the source material. So that can be really quite handy. There's a source index as well. All right, so these are quite useful for understanding what the program is doing and bringing some more advanced stuff later. But effectively what you need to do is copy at least those 2 folders into your Vault. All right, now how do we do that? Well, we can bring this up and we will go to where we have a Vault. So for me that would be in my Obsidian, and I'm going to put it into Import Video CLI. Here's one I may have prepared earlier. I am going to delete all of that. Alright, so this is a raw Vault that I have, and I'm going to copy my compendium and my rules into this folder. Alright, that process is now complete. So now we can go to Obsidian. I've got my Import Video CLI Vault that I've created earlier. If you don't have a Vault, you can obviously create a new Vault from a folder. Alright, so you can open that up. But I'm going to click that. That's going to load up this Vault, and we're going to obviously see the Vault start to index those files because there's a bunch of files that it didn't know existed before. It's going to basically index those in so that we can see them, and you can see over here it's indexing that currently. So 1,463 notes need to be indexed. Alright, here it comes nice and quickly, indexing complete. Alright, let's have a look at the rules. We have the actions. We have the damage types. We have the senses. If we go into the compendium, we can have a look at backgrounds. You can see this acolyte. Alright, that's because that's the only one that comes with the SRD. The bestiary. So we got gold dragons. We got black dragons. We got green dragons. Let's have a look at the Fae. We have a blink dog. Alright, we have a satyr. Alright, and as you can see, it's coming across quite nicely. Now, for those playing at home who are used to the Fantasy Stat Blocks plugin, you can see that this isn't actually the Fantasy Stat Blocks plugin format. I haven't used that, but it is possible. We'll go through that in a second video that goes into more depths in how to do this. Alright, I just wanted to check something. Do I have any? I do. I've got a DnD5e compendium CSS snippet that's running here. So where did I get that? That's probably an important thing to cover. So we've copied the content of the Vault. We're going to restart. We wait for it to index. Now we need to install Admonitions and the JSON. That's right. So let's come down here. I've probably skipped a few steps showing you the outcome, but now we're going to set up the Vault. So install the Admonitions plugin. If we go back to our Vault and go Settings, Community Plugins, Browse, type in Admon, and Admonitions come up by Jeremy Valentine. That's Javelin, for those not playing along at home. Alright, there'll be an option to install and enable that plugin, so go ahead and do that. I'm just going to click the Update All plugin in the background. Alright, so that's now processing. We now need to save these files. Here we go. Now download the Admonition JSON file that you would like to use. I'm going to use the 5e JSON file. Alright, so I can create a copy of this here. Now this is quite simple to do. Alright, you can just basically copy this into a notepad. Alright, copy it into a notepad, and then from here click Save As, and we save that into, probably just add our, well, anywhere to be honest, but I'm going to put it into my 5, I'm going to put it into, just a JSON files. Alright, now I'm going to save it with the same name as this, so admonitions-5e.json, and just replicate that, click Save. I've now got a copy, and then what we're going to do is we're going to basically come back to our vault. Alright, we're going to find Admonitions in the settings here, and we're going to come down here to Add New, click the plus button, import. We're going to choose files from the import admonitions option. We're going to find where we just installed that, and we're going to double click this option. Alright, and you can see that's just imported. The options, I've actually got an issue because I've already got this, but it's just added the ones that I was missing, and that will then make this look nice and pretty for you. Alright, let's head back to our website. Let's go through and have a look. So Force Note View is another one that we want to install. Alright, so we'll click that. You can see we've got a link here to actually click that link. Alright, we can go ahead and do the install. Alright, I've already done it, so I don't need to do it. But it says, from the options, ignore Force View, ignore Open File, equals enable. So in here we need to turn on both of these options. Alright, do that. Head on back to the website. Alright, Fantasy Stat Blocks. You can install that. We don't use it in this version of the video, but I will use it in a future. Initiative Tracker, again, if you want to use Fantasy Stat Blocks, we can go ahead and use that as well. And install CSS Snippets. Now these are optional, but they do improve the way the notes work. We need to download the code as a zip file. Now what that means is we're going to basically come along here and download the TTRPG-convert-CLI-main folder. Alright, and if we then go back to our folder where we had everything installed and go back to that bin folder, you can see that I've actually already copied this here. Alright, so from downloads, I'm going to copy this new file that I've just downloaded. I'm in the zip. I'm going to drag that over and basically, you know, override what I've done here. I won't do it because I've already done it. But you want to go ahead and get that right because it's got some really cool stuff, specifically examples in here. The templates can be really, really handy. Again, for a later video, we'll go through that. But for this specific section, what we need is the CSS snippets. So we're in the bin folder, we're in here, excuse me, and then we're in examples. Alright, and then from there we have the CSS snippets. Alright, and there's a few different options here. I've got the DnD5e compendium, I think it is, or there might be only admonitions, I'm not sure. But what you can do is copy these, find your vault, alright, come into your .obsidian folder. If you don't see it, it might be hidden and you need to turn on hidden files and folders, and then go into snippets and paste them here. Now another way to get there, just for those people who are new to the tool, is go settings, appearance, and scroll down until you get to the CSS snippets section, and there's actually an open file folder button. Press that and that will actually open that folder for you, and from there you can basically paste the files, and you can see I'm replacing these here. So what does that do? Well, let's just have a look. We should go into appearance now, scroll down to here, you can see these options, and if I turn the option off, this is probably what yours should look like currently. Alright, very large picture, not too nice to look at, so that's why we come in here and we turn on the compendium, and you can see that changes that to be a lot smaller picture, obviously puts it on the right, really sort of makes it look nice. Let's have a look at the DnD5e. Did that do anything? I don't think it did. That's PFT. What did that one do? Alright, that one made it blue. So you can see there's some different options there. These two seem to be the ones that work, but DnD5e is the one I suspect you're meant to be using for this. I don't use this version, but it is quite nice and neat. Alright, this is something that is not reliant on the Fantasy Stat Block plugin. Alright, it just works in a normal note as a standard callout, which means it should actually work in an Obsidian published site as well, by the way. But obviously I prefer to utilize the proper versions. By proper versions I mean I like to use notes that come out looking a bit more like this. Alright, you can see it's actually got the officially rendered stat block using the Fantasy Stat Block plugin. But we will get to that in a later video. Alright, so there we go. Let's head on back to the website. We have now, go to the very top again, we have now installed the Admonitions, installed the JSON for the Admonitions, installed Force Note View. We have configured Force Note View. We've installed, we're not going to install Fantasy Stat Blocks, we're not going to install Initiative Tracker because we don't need them. And I need to update this. It says if you would like to move the content, do it from inside Obsidian. I'm going to tell you right now, do not move this content. Okay? Where I have put this content in the compendium and the rules folder is where it needs to stay. Okay? Do not move these notes. Okay, so let's just explain this in a bit more detail, alright, because there's a few reasons behind this recommendation. The first one is, you can see the tags, alright, and if we actually go into edit mode and have a look at the links, you will see that they're actually kind of like hard-coded with the folder structure that has created this entire process. Alright, and that's because there's a lot of duplication in the data that's been read and used. There's a lot of opportunities for mistakes to be made if there's not very specific linking involved. Alright. Now, I personally, I'm a big fan of just having like the note name, like the square bracket, note name, square bracket in my links, right? Because it just means I can put those notes anywhere and they work. But look, I was one of the people who just avoided this tool because simple things like flying sword, for example, had lower cases and dashes, but I've come around to the way of thinking. I've been convinced that there's programmatic reasons for doing things this way. Alright, and just to speak to the name, you can see flying dash sword is obviously like, you know, sitting over the side, that's the name. If we actually do go into flying dash sword though, you can see the alias here actually has flying sword in the proper name, and the linking will work to the alias as well as the other name as well. So while it may not look as sort of pretty as you want your notes to look in this raw format, it's done for a reason, alright? And then the folder structure where everything is put is so hard-coded into this thing that trying to change that to some sort of other behavior is going to be a nightmare and cause you a lot of breakage and pain. So, when you download it, the folders that it creates at the compendium and the rules level must go in the root of your vault. Alright, so your vault is here, they need to go into this folder here. And if we do this from the actual the folder level, we can see my Obsidian folder, this is my vault name. Alright, so my .obsidian folder. The compendium and the rules go into the same folder at the root source of my vault. Now, we will cover in another video, alright, how to change these folders. Alright, so don't stress, there is a way to do this, alright, but we're not there yet. Alright, I wanted to show you how to run this process from start to finish in order to obtain the 5e SRD. Alright, we've done that now. Alright, it actually wasn't that hard, really, if you think about it. Let's go back here and just do a quick search, or a quick scan through here. So, we downloaded the CLI tool and we put it into a folder called CLI on our C drive. Alright, we extracted the CLI data from the zip file and put it into that folder. We downloaded Git, alright, and we installed Git. We downloaded the content that we're going to use from the 5th edition tools site. Alright, we downloaded that, and then we opened up the command prompt and we pasted in the command line, and it ran the content, it created the content. Alright, then we installed some plugins, we installed some snippets, we set some things up so that those notes can be read, and then basically we opened up those notes in Obsidian and they're good to go. Alright, It's actually not a hard process, and what you'll find is that the more times you do this, the easier it becomes. And I just want to call out, just again, that you can obviously run this again. All right, so let's just say we are in C drive, CLI, bin. All right, we can come in here, or we can come in here, and we can do CMD from here. We can do a git pull. All right, that's what I did originally. That will update the source content. We can then come back to bin, and we can run command from here, and we can paste in that command that we had originally, and we can run this process again. Now, the reason why I say that is because sometimes the CLI process is updated, or the source content is updated with things that you would like to try. All right, and by keeping everything in the same format, in the same folders, it means that it's very easy to update, because in the future you can just override these, copy these folders and paste them over your other folders in your vault, and boom, you get the updated files and folders, just like that. All right, very, very easy. So don't move it. It's not worth the pain, guys. And keeping in mind that if you do go ahead and make any changes to those notes, and in the future the CLI tool is updated or the source data is updated, and you want to have a crack at updating that, you have created yourself a situation where you can't actually just override those files anymore. All right, there's a lot of recommendations on why we're saying don't move this content, just leave it where it is. Anyway, this has been another Obsidian TTRPG tutorial to try and show you how to use the CLI process specifically for 5e, and in this case for the SRD. All right, I'm going to do this as the first step. All right, this is the first step to learning how to use this tool. There will be another video. In that other video, we're going to go into how to create a configuration, all right, which is like a saved config that you constantly reuse for your setup. How to add new sources, all right, so for books that you own, you can get copies of those books. How to use templates, all right, how to actually use predefined templates that change the output of the notes. How to switch the monsters over to stat blocks instead of the admonition style as well, all right. Then there's Pathfinder, all right. There's a whole other system we can play with and learn how to use with this tool. So there is much more to cover, but that's enough for now. All right, this is just a bite-sized module to get you a taste of what this tool can do. It is absolutely worth the pain of learning how to do it. I wish I had done it sooner. I do not use handlebars for anything that can be made from official content anymore. I use this for pretty much everything. This is my mechanics method now. It is fantastic and I love it. So with that said, I want to say a huge and massive shout out to all my patrons. All right, thank you for your support. If you're not aware of what I'm talking about, I do have a Patreon account. You can come here to community and support, and you can find me under this link here. It's just a way of saying thank you at this point, guys. My intention is to make all of my tutorial content available for everyone to use. All right, so I'm putting it all on this website. So please don't feel like you need to support me. You don't need to, all right? It's there if people want to say thank you, and I highly appreciate it. And thank you for all of those guys that do support me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's amazing. Outside of that, if you're looking for help or community, the Obsidian TTRPG community Discord link can be found here. All right, jump in there. There is a massive community. It is very active. We're talking every single day about how to use this tool in different ways. Jump in and say hello. All right. The Obsidian official Discord server, if you're not in there as well, that is a massive repository with a huge number of people who are using the tool on a daily basis. There's TTRPG channel in there, but there's obviously channels for lots of other things as well. So it's a great, great resource. Anyway, guys, that has been it. That is the first video for the CLI, TTRPG CLI process. So hopefully that wets your whistle a little bit and you can jump in and create your first notes. And then look forward to the next video. We'll jump in and we'll go deeper. So have a great day, and I'll speak to you on the socials.